Hey guys, this is Bruce with Cross Country Three's The Sentinel Podcast. The Sentinel Podcast is, well, an opportunity to highlight men and women who are about being warriors and watchmen. Those that are willing to be on the front lines, those who have been or maybe in the arena of life right now. We are always thankful in America for those who are willing to put their life on the line, those who have been there and done that and are able to share those experiences with us. So the Sentinel podcast, as a part of Cross Country 3, does a few things. For example, we want to make sure that we highlight those who help us to, well, preserve our freedoms and to protect our families and to persevere in the faith. You know, we love those who love America and love our traditions and how, in fact, God has certainly blessed America. And anyway, so that is the Sentinel podcast, and this is pretty much the genesis of the podcast. And today, I have the privilege of interviewing Jason Deweese. And Jason Deweese is the general manager.
Yes,
do I have that right?
Yes, sir.
He's the general manager of Black Rifle Coffee here in Niceville, Florida, which is just down the road from Eglin Air Force Base, I think the largest Air Force base in the world. Jason, glad that you're able to talk with me today.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me. You know, this is a pretty cool opportunity. When we met, a few months back, you told me your story coming down here, showing up new to the area. So I was, pretty interested in hearing what you got the podcast going. We kind of started one recently as well, trying to figure it out. So, just a couple guys here, like going through the steps together, and hopefully we put some interesting information out there that people enjoy.
Absolutely. And speaking of that, so I listened to you on that podcast, and the title of that podcast is again?
That's the 3BT podcast. So that's myself, and the owner of Black Rifle Niceville, Florida, is Jarrett Johnson, and we produce it right here out of our shop.
Jarrett Johnson played high school football in Chiefland, Florida, and I think he grew up in Cedar Key, if I remember right.
Yes, sir.
Played football at Chiefland, went on to play for the University of Alabama. I think they do have a fairly decent football program in Alabama.
Historically, over the last 20 years, they did okay.
So Jarrett not only went to Alabama, but he played for the Baltimore Ravens. And I remember him in uniform as a Baltimore Raven, even though I was not and still am not a Raven fan.
That happens to a lot of us,
Yeah.
But, hey, he's a quality individual, a good guy.
He is a quality individual, and he owns this great place. If you live in Niceville, make sure that you come by to Black Rifle Coffee right here. Talk to Jason and his team. They are surrounded with a number of good coffees, good coffee mugs, of which I have one with me, and then also some other items that you can purchase. But Jason, before he became the general manager here at Black Rifle Coffee, he was in the United States Army. He retired from the United States Army. And I'm going to ask if you would, Jason, just highlight a little bit about, briefly about where you grew up and then how that led to enlisting in the United States military.
So I grew up, graduated high school coming out of Central Illinois. Didn't really know what I was going to do after college. Didn't, know if I wanted to go to college or anything or not. So didn't have a lot of focus at that time. So I figured that the military was a great route to give me some experience and probably lead back into like a job. There's definitely a big, in Central Illinois, Peoria, there's a Caterpillar company. So I was hoping maybe, get some construction experience down in the military and then possibly translate that back into civilian career.
When you enlisted, did you go to MEPS and all that in the Illinois area?
I did. I went through St. Louis.
Oh,
St. Louis, yeah. That's where I went through MEPS and everything at.
Okay. That was a wonderful experience.
Yeah, MEPS was an interesting thing, and it's odd because you don't really know what you don't know. And they're just in there to process you through. Kind of, you're another number to them. They're turning it over.
That's right.
The big machine never stops.
Yes. And then it got a lot more personal when you went to basic training.
Absolutely. That was pretty interesting right there. I ended up going basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky, and then transferred over to Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, where I did the heavy equipment operator course for running heavy equipment, track hose, excavators, bulldozers, 18-wheelers, all of those things.
Yeah. So Fort Leonard Wood, Fort Lost in the Woods.
Middle of nowhere.
Sapper School is also there, right?
Absolutely. Sapper School is there.
So I've had the joy and privilege of serving alongside some of our combat engineers in the Army. I did so in 3rd Brigade, 3rd ID out of Fort Benning. And then also a 2nd ID at Camp Casey in Korea. And then 3rd Brigade, 10th Mountain. And that was 10th Mountain in Louisiana at Fort Polk.
Not the New York 10th Mountain.
Not the New York
You're right.
10th Mountain. So what do you remember about your training at Fort Leonard Wood?
Well, I think it was January that I ended up going up through there. So it definitely wasn't easy to cut dirt and go. The ground was extremely frozen, cold the entire time. I want to say it was a 12-week course, and every piece of equipment was 1 week. And, we only had maybe an hour, 2 hours of operation on it. So I wasn't as confident in my skill set going into my first duty station that like, hey, I can come in and I can effectively operate this. It's just, I've seen it, I've touched it, I understand how it's supposed to work, but I'm not sure if I'm the right man for the job.
Yeah. I know those kind of feelings. I still have them every day.
It does happen.
Where was your first assignment?
My first assignment was in Georgia, Hinesville, Georgia, 3rd ID.
Yeah.
Dog-faced soldier.
Dog-faced soldier.
Yep.
Could you sing that song?
I wouldn't give a bean to be a fancy pants Marine.
Yeah,
yep.
That's right.
Some things you never forget.
That's right. Yes. I remember coming out of school and someone finding out that I was going to Fort Benning to be a part of 3rd ID, and they asked if I knew the Dog-Faced Soldier song yet, and I didn't even know that there was one. But I quickly found out.
Every morning.
Every single morning.
Yes, sir.
Now, you eventually ended up in Special Forces.
Yes, sir.
And tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I did a few rotations with the regular Army. We did the Iraq invasion, Afghanistan invasion. After I showed up to my duty station, the first trip we actually took from Fort Stewart was to Bosnia. And then after that, as you go and grow in the military, you spend a little time, you get to see additional units and individuals out there operating differently, looking differently, kind of functioning. It looks more like, to me, the idea was like they were a higher level, a higher tier, like doing adult things, so I was like, that interested me instead of just always being told what to do, how to do it. They seemed like some decision makers. So after we came back from Iraq, and I went over, we talked to the recruiter. I was like, man, let's try this one time. I was thinking about getting out, and I was like, I at least want to give it a try.
And was that process of applying for that a difficult or long process?
No, it wasn't difficult at all. You basically just go, you talk to your recruiter, they put you in on a DA order, and a lot of times I hear stories where like people's units like aren't happy with them because they're applying to leave, and majority of the time they're probably a pretty quality individual that's looking to excel and go to a higher level unit, and like they're going to lose a good person eventually. But for myself, like I figured I'd been there for probably 4 years at that time, and I knew eventually the Army was going to send me somewhere. And one of the big things from Fort Stewart is like Fort Stewart and Korea have this weird connection where they could send you to real easy and you bounce back and forth for a career, and just that really didn't interest me at that time in my life.
Yeah. That's interesting because I heard the same about Fort Benning, so maybe it's a third ID.
It could be, 3rd ID, mechanized, probably I think has something to do with that.
That's true.
Yeah.
Where did you go for Special Forces training?
So I showed up to Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Initial phase is assessment and selection. You go, I want to say it was a 24-day tryout. You show up, they dump your bags, you get everything checked in, make sure you only have what's on your packing list. And then after that, the only information they give you is just take all your directions from the board. So there's a whiteboard posted up, and it's on you at that point to establish like a fire watch, get a guard duty going, always have someone rotating out at the board like every 10, 15 minutes to check to see when they're going to post the next thing. Because you never know, like it could be next formation 02, road march, rucksack, 35 pounds. And so you're basically acquiring this information, and then you have to apply it.
Yeah. You have to be able to adapt pretty quickly.
Yes, they like to change things on you. You know, that's part of like the little stressors and stuff that they would throw in there. Maybe they'll set you up, tell you, 02 formation. And then at 2:30, while you've been standing at the formation for 30 minutes, they come out and change it to 06:30 formation. You know, just kind of adjustments, you know, just little stressors to see how you'll react. What kind of, you know, are you going to get upset? Is it going to build a bad attitude? You know, are you going to maintain yourself as a team player and work out through there?
And how do you think, looking back on that today, how do you think that you did?
I think I did fairly well. There's a few things that like I excelled at that point. Like I never wanted to like be in the front or be in the back. I always wanted kind of like some people tell you always be the gray man, where it's like you're not standing out, but you're always, you know, finishing right where you're supposed to be, you know, above average, but you know, just you're not being noticed for one good thing or the other.
Yeah.
Or possibly a bad thing.
Yeah. I just finished a couple of novels about the gray man, which I think was a movie as well. Let's see. I know we haven't finished your story yet, but before we do that, let me think or ask you to think about a couple of things.
All right.
I'll just throw out a phrase, and then either with your time in the United States Army or even as it might apply right here at Black Rifle Coffee, I'll throw out a phrase, and then you let me know what off the top of your head.
Fire back.
Ferocious work ethic.
Ferocious work ethic. For me, I felt like that was something that would apply in special forces, where you're always being assessed. You know, it never stops because you have to be constantly good at your job. And when I say good at your job, the thing with special forces is like you're not necessarily a master of one thing, whereas you can see the guys of Delta Force, hostage rescue, they're phenomenal shooters, breaching an aircraft. They do that better than anyone in the world. Well, in special forces, you need to be able to communicate, have people skills, be good at your job, be able to set your radio up, teach people in foreign languages how to utilize their equipment, and just expand upon things like that.
Yowza. That tested you, but as an ambitious young man, you wanted to be tested.
I did, absolutely. And I think it was good for me at the time, too. You know, it's kind of something to prove. And then when you get to special forces, especially like when I did early in around 2005, the age bracket was still a little bit older. So the guys were proven. I was 24, 25 getting in there. And a lot of the guys on my team were between 30 and 35. So they've been there. They have a level of proficiency and excellence that they already established that I needed to live up to upon showing up to the team.
Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Makes you earn it.
That's right. Raise the standard. How about this one? Ruthless focus.
Ruthless focus. You need to be an expert at your job and know everything that you can about it. And as well, I'll relate it back to being on an ODA. Hyper focused on certain things, whereas, you know, we might have a medic or two on the team, but possibly, you know, they're not with you at whatever site you're on at that time. So you always need to like cross train in everything that we do on the special forces job. From medical's the big one. Whereas if it's just myself and the Bravo, the weapons guy, if he was to be shot or I was to be shot, we need to understand how effectively care for each other under that. And I think the medical focus was one of the best ones that I kind of gravitated towards, and like I enjoyed learning on that aspect of it.
How about this one? Unshakable spirit.
Unshakable spirit. That one I'd relate more to Black Rifle, whereas just positive attitude, positive vibe. You know, there's not a lot of bad things going on in my life right now. I tell a lot of the kids here that we work with, like, no one's shooting at us. It's not that big a deal. It's just coffee, and we'll stay positive. We'll get through this. And, you know, no one's going to be mad,
If I didn't get my coffee, I might be mad.
That happens, but we'll kill them with kindness at the same time. I have a running joke here where like I'll tell someone if I mess something up or someone else messes something up, like I'll stand up and take the blame for it. And I always tell people that, hey, sorry, this is like my third day here. I'm trying my best. And some people are customers that have been back and forth. They're like, man, this is the fifth time you told me it's your third day, bro.
Well, let's get back. I got a couple more, but let's get back to your
sure.
story. So, getting through Special Forces training, you somehow end up at Eglin Air Force Base.
I did. So going through the Q course, after graduated, I was a commo sergeant. And initially we were in Fort Bragg, North Carolina. I was attached to 7th Special Forces Group. And then in 2011, the BRAC movement, where the base realignment started to happen. And prior to that, I think it came down between Eglin and Savannah, and I was kind of hopeful to go back to Savannah area because I really enjoyed that area, man. But they ended up picking Eglin Air Force Base and built a little compound out there. And so at that point in 2011, when everyone in 7th Group moved, we rotated back from Afghanistan. Everyone moved down here because I'd been on the teams for about a little over 6 years at that time. They're like, hey, you need to become an instructor. So instead of coming down right away, I ended up going out to Yuma, Arizona to be a free fall instructor.
Oh, in Yuma. Wow.
In Yuma, yeah. The sunniest place in America.
I grew up in Tucson, a few hours from Yuma, and my dad used to want to take us out to the Yuma prison.
Oh, yeah.
That was a thing for him. I used to wonder as a kid if he went to prison there. But I think he just liked history. And so we would drive out to the Yuma prison, and man, was it hot.
Oh, definitely hot. And it sits right up there on the top of the hill.
Yeah.
A good, kind of reminds you of the Wild West. You can easily envision that, as you're looking out there like cowboys and Indians, riding across the new frontier out there.
That's right.
Yep.
So my favorite station in the Army was at Fort Huachuca in Arizona.
Close to home for you.
It was. As a motorcycle rider, you can get on the highways and the byways, the state of Arizona, and cruise all over. My favorite was in Tombstone. So I grew up a fan of Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday. And so every chance I got to take that quick 20-minute ride from Fort Huachuca down to Tombstone, I took advantage of that.
Yeah, Arizona is definitely biker's paradise out there, wide open roads, and you can just go for days, man. And it was super nice. I didn't ride out while I was out there, but majority of my friends did for sure.
Yeah.
Especially because the base was in the middle of nowhere, so they had about a 30-minute drive in from Yuma proper out there to the free fall school. So every morning it was like a train of motorcycles just coming onto base.
Now, so Yuma going the other direction, you head towards San Diego?
Yep, out there towards San Diego. And so once you cross over into California, I think it's Imperial maybe, and I don't know if they call it the Yuma Dunes or the California Dunes. That's where some of those big, large sand dunes are out there.
Yeah.
Kind of looks like another country, realistically.
Yes.
To me, it looks like it could easily be Egypt or something of that, in that neck of the woods.
Did you ever go out to San Diego?
Yeah, we spent a lot of time out in San Diego. We do some of our family retreats and stuff like that out there with the military. And during our vacation times, we'd go out there, just family vacation, baseball games, and great food, man. Just San Diego is one of my favorite cities in America.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know how it can't be one of your favorites.
Beautiful weather, good skydiving out there as well, and just delicious food, man. I enjoyed all the time out in San Diego.
So you said we and family retreats and such. So were you married during your transition from regular Army into Special Forces?
No, I went from after a little while in Special Forces. Towards my end, I ended up getting married, and then we moved out to probably about a year after she moved in. We got married and everything. We ended up transitioning out there to Yuma.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And the Army can be challenging on a family.
It can, definitely. I think for me, we were fortunate enough that she had an idea what she was getting into, but she didn't realize it until she was there, basically like being a team member, a team wife is, just another level of team members for us. And then when she was in it, she seen like the op tempo that we worked at, was pretty steep back then, 6-month deployments, 3-month train up. You might get lucky and have 30 days off, or you got to go to a school in between, before your next deployment.
Yeah.
So that was a little rough. But then after, about 2 years of marriage, I ended up getting that stationed out of Yuma. So we were able to kind of settle in, and really kind of grow from that point.
Yeah. My wife and I met when I was enlisted in the Air Force, and we were both serving in security forces. Back in that day, there was security police. And so Kim and I were both in uniform for a while at the same time. And so later on, when I was in the Army, she knew all about that. And so I had about 9 years enlisted, and then ultimately 13 years or so as an Army chaplain. But Kim understood all of that. And my 2 deployments to Iraq, one with 3rd ID, one with 10th Mountain, both times she met with soldier spouses, taught them how to quilt, encouraged them, ate dinner with them, and so she's been terrific during that whole time.
That would definitely be helpful, like to come in and like have an awareness, because I think a lot of guys, as we come across, from all parts of the country, if you don't have a military background, and then once you're in special forces, your spouse is not, it's going to take a while for that adjustment to happen and kind of understand the op tempo and how much you're working, how much you're going to be gone. You put a lot on their plate, when you leave. So having someone like back home, being able to talk to them, like you said, you were a chaplain. We always utilize the chaplain, the FRGs and stuff like that would always get together. And that just, provided a little bit of a stability in their life when we were out.
Yeah. Stability is good to have.
You need stability.
Yeah. When there's so much uncertainty and the need to adapt and adjust at a moment, and having some certainty and stability is always good to have. Now, speaking of instability, you jumped out of perfectly good airplanes.
I did quite often.
And you did that as a proof of your instability.
Yeah. Mental instability, probably. But that was probably by far my favorite job. When I went through the basic free fall course in 2006, and I just, from going out there and just like the job, the speed at which you worked and the amount of information you're putting out, and just really like the high stress environment, because every time you jump, like you just said, every time you jump out of a plane, you're risking your own life. So you need to be able to put in the proper actions to, execute what you're supposed to. And if something does go wrong, which it could, implement your life-saving procedures.
Yeah. Well, thank you for every time that you jumped out of the airplane and did everything that you did for the protection of America, the preservation of your unit, your battle buddies, all of that. I know that you're appreciated around here, as are all of our veterans. And speaking of that, this area, I love this area.
It's pretty nice. They call it Niceville, like it's one of the weird places that like lives up to its name.
It does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Destin has all the beaches, and Niceville right next to Eglin Air Force Base. But even Destin and Fort Walton Beach, we're inundated with veterans, retirees, and why wouldn't you? I mean, if you're able to retire on the beach or here near the bay or bayou, why wouldn't you do that?
Yeah, you really don't want to move anywhere else. Like especially once you get here, you get comfortable. You want to settle in. Like on my way out when I retired, I was thinking about, I was super nervous, needed to get a job, needed to, provide for the family, didn't know what the future held. And I was like going to be a contractor, and I started looking like down in Tampa or Miami. But my family was so happy and so settled here that they're like, hey, if this is what you need to do, you can go ahead and go TDY and then just come back and visit us at the home station.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was like, well, we'll probably find something here.
And you did.
And we did. Absolutely.
And
yeah,
how long
phenomenal.
have you been doing this?
So for 4 years since it opened, upon retirement, I was in my whatever those last few days are that you're leaving out of the military.
A capping or
Yeah,
all ups?
your terminal leave. There we go.
Oh,
Terminal
yes.
leave.
Yeah.
My terminal leave is when I started here. Jarrett and my buddy Aaron were kind of building this place out, and they offered me the opportunity to come on, and I was like, well, I don't know what else I'm going to do, but this will definitely just give me the time to think and kind of figure things out as we move forward.
Yeah. I got a couple other phrases here.
Let's go.
So if you're it sounds to me like you're a grateful guy. You've been lots of places. You've done plenty of things, and yet you're a man full of gratitude. It appears to me. When I'm in here, you're certainly joyful to the men and women that come in here, their families, their Dobermans.
Yes, absolutely.
That Doberman that was in here the other day, that was a good looking dog.
That is a phenomenal looking dog, and I actually just took him and got him a little puppy pampering earlier today. This morning. Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, so I wrote a couple of things down here. I think a grateful man could be a grateful woman. A grateful person moves with purpose. What do you think about that phrase, moving with purpose?
Moving with purpose, possibly something like always have a plan, and never let a situation overwhelm you. So you have an end state which you're trying to get to. For example, here in the coffee shop, people come in and they're looking for coffee or they're looking for a certain item. Move with a purpose, and like while you're doing that, though, like you said, being grateful and smiling, like just giving back, open communication where you're having a solid conversation. Like let people know that like, hey, I'm listening to what you're saying, and I'm here to help you, and I'm trying to do my best. But never forget, it's always my third day at work. So, and people like open up instantly to that,
Yeah.
just, crack a little joke, have some humor behind everything
Yeah.
you do. But there's an end state, from the time like we opened this store, we were going we were going here, building it up. Then we got it set up, blew up, working super crazy, long hours. Now we kind of, we've been here for almost coming on 4 years in September, that now we're kind of like settled in. So now we're running at the pace, just a standard operation right now.
I with what you were just saying there, I was thinking that a grateful person is a humble person, and I think that ability to laugh at yourself, I think, is good, and it helps ease the walls or defenses that some people have around them, and I think thereby you provide a relaxing environment for people to enjoy life and come in and not just drink coffee, but be themselves. Maybe
Yeah.
I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Like humble and humility. Like for me, like instantly once you started saying that, like I started thinking about my staff and like a lot of the kids that work here. When we first started, again, the age group was a little bit older. We were probably averaging like 35 years old. As we've transitioned, the staff has got a lot younger. So I've learned to like adapt to things and be able to teach them in ways like just, hey, be humble. I make mistakes. I understand you're going to make mistakes, but just provide them like with the opportunity to come in here, no pressure environment, and just, hey, let's come in, let's excel together. There's a few phrases I use. I'm like, hey, players play, winners win. So if you put in the effort, you will get your time and opportunity, to come in, make your hours, and make, whatever it is you're looking for. Are you just looking for a second job? Are you looking to make some money? Like those kind of things I consider. And I think that's helpful, being able to relate with the kids and having them see me open up, because like they see, or hear like from the buddies and stuff that come through, like, oh, military background, this, that, the other. Well, it's funny because there's been a few of them, some of our recent hires that didn't even know I was in the military,
Well, I think all of that just shows good leadership, and I would bet if I were to go through and talk to your team, I bet they would say that you've proven to be a good leader. How about this phrase here?
All right.
So a grateful guy, a humble guy is hungry, but never desperate. Hungry, but never desperate. And I might give you a moment to think about that by saying that I did a video the other day on how it's okay to be sick of ourselves sometimes. And by that, I meant that, when I begin to get lazy, or when I begin to get down on myself or down in life,
Mm-hmm.
when I get too discouraged, maybe when I start complaining, I need to get sick of myself at
Yeah.
that moment. And I need to think, you can't be like that. It's okay to be content with where you are and what you have, but at the same time, ambitious to move forward. And so, again, getting back to the statement, a man is hungry but never desperate.
Hungry, never desperate. So hungry is, in my mind, having a focus on where you want to go, what you need to achieve that goal, whatever your end state is, if it's going to college, if it's advancing in your career. You're hungry, but you're never desperate to endanger or, let me see if a good word would be to, you're never going to like hungry over desperate. You're not going to make the mistakes, or you're not going to like take the easy way out. A hungry individual is a focused individual that's willing to do the hard work. But desperate people will take the easy way out and,
Make bad decisions.
poor decisions,
Yeah. Yeah. Many of the young soldiers that I was serving alongside at 3rd ID, at 10th Mountain, certainly at 2nd ID at Camp Casey in Korea, man, just some desperate individuals, unfortunately, and they made some very poor choices, and it ended up getting them in trouble. Sometimes it hurt their
And one poor
unit
choice can
members.
easily lead and compound to making additional poor decisions. Like if you find yourself in a bad spot, then you need to accept it and understand what happened, how you got there, but then you need to be able to grow from it as well. You can't just fall in that pattern of additional poor decision making, like, oh, I don't know, man, somebody got a DUI and then now they're like, oh, my life's ruined. I'm just going to drink all the time, instead of like actually applying and think about like, hey, how can I fix myself? What did I do wrong to get here? How can I better my life? What am I missing that I need in my life at this time? And a lot of time I think people, maybe they're probably missing something. Maybe it's, I don't know, friendship, compassion, just somebody to talk to easily. We hear a lot about when people get out and they struggle, they kind of spiral down those rabbit holes that we got to figure out like, hey, how to reach out to your buddies. And currently, this is Memorial Day time right around here. So everyone, we're doing our annual or biannual check-ins with each other on our text message and stuff too. But like, if you ever have a friend that's out there, like they might be going through something, don't allow them to make a poor decision and drag themselves further down. Like, step in and be a good friend, man, and like help them before it gets to that level.
Good word. I appreciate
so,
that. Yeah. I wrote down some notes earlier.
All right.
Jeff Struker. Do you know the name Jeff Struker?
I don't think so.
So Jeff was a part of that team in Mogadishu, and with Mike Durant.
92. Yep.
Yeah.
The Ranger. Yep.
Yep. Black Hawk Down. So he was a part of that team that was out there. I don't remember his specific role, but he ultimately, after the events of Mogadishu, went to school and ended up becoming an Army chaplain. And I can't remember if he was an Army Ranger, if he was a Green Beret. I really don't remember. And I should have asked you that before we started the interview, but I wrote his name there. If you were to say something, you just did, but say something to people to help build their resilience so that they can bounce back through the disappointments and difficulties of life and not hit rock bottom. If you were to say some things to help build the resilience of a man or a woman, what would you say?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to steal a line from Admiral McCraven where he says, every morning, wake up and make your bed.
Yeah.
because when you wake up and make your bed, you're starting your day with a victory right there. And you're not allowing yourself to be sucked into complacency, to laziness. And these are like little things that I instill in my daughter as well every day. I'm telling her, hey, wake up and make your bed. What are we going to do to win the day? Like, where are you at? What is your plan? Have a plan, understand where you're going and how you're going to get there.
That's good. I like that a lot. Those small steps that help you
Small
to celebrate victories,
Yes, sir.
and then gives you the confidence to move forward. And that's helpful on the basketball court.
Absolutely.
You played basketball
I did.
in high school. It helps on the football field. It can help out in real life, in the real world. Certainly can help in combat situations where there's so much uncertainty and oftentimes a lack of confidence and even despair. Can you think of a moment, as we about wrap this up, can you think of a moment where you went through a period of time where you needed to man up and say, you know what, I'm going to press forward. I need to build my own inner strength and move forward by faith?
There's probably a lot of times in the military that, that happened and I went through it and kind of figured it out. But now it's definitely like more recently, as you get out and things change and, you understand like you're not the same person that you used to be. Now we sit here, we run a coffee shop, that I need to like understand that, hey, there's going to be ups and downs in life, and maybe more on the side where like I'm not feeling as good, as I did before, as I get a little bit older and stuff like that. So I take days off, from going to the gym. I take days off from working out. And then again, there's complacency setting in. I get lazy in my own mind. Then you feel sorry for yourself and you're not doing as good. And then I come in and my boss, the owner, Jarrett, he's already did 2 workouts and it's only like 8:00 in the morning. And I was like, man, so he helps motivate me, mentally and physically. And it's like good to have a good friend like that around, to like not let you fall in or feel sorry for yourself. It's like, hey man, let's go, dude. Let's get a workout in.
Yeah.
Let's do something, let's suck a little bit. It feels good to like sweat and feel the pain in your body, because we're still able to. So we still have the, amount of time on this earth to go out there and affect other people's lives, and everything you do, man, try to do it in a positive manner, bring good energy, positive energy around. And, I think all that stuff will come back to you, man. And we're fortunate that we have the opportunity to do so because, again, Memorial Day, like not all of our friends made it home. So now we need to, affect them positively and put out good information, out there in the universe. And I think all the good things will come back to us.
Good word. I love
Thank
that,
you.
Jason.
I appreciate it.
I'm about to do a quick shout out to a couple of people. If while I'm doing that, you think of someone that you'd like to shout out to or highlight, feel free to do so. So I'm going to say thank you to Bob Langus. Sure appreciate you, Bob, being a part of the Cross Country 3 team. Talked a little bit yesterday. You're one busy son of a gun, and sure appreciate you. And you know what? Maybe your Chicago Bears will actually do something this season. And Don Moore, there you are in Brooklyn. Sure appreciate you, Don. You're a wonderful asset to the Cross Country 3 team. Appreciate your humility and your willingness to share and give and love. You do it, and you do it with grace, and you do it with grit. I want to say a shout out to Ignite Collective Agency. Sure appreciate Brianna at Ignite Collective. Appreciate the encouragement, and hopefully our partnership will move forward here. And I appreciate all that you do. Give a shout out to Black Rifle Coffee right here, Jason and his team. Make sure that you come in, take a look around, and be a part of this terrific winning team right here in Niceville, Florida.
Yeah, and I just like to, again, shout out Jarrett, man. He's did a lot for me, and I appreciate everything that, he's done for me and our entire team here, man. I have a great staff, like you said, positive energy, positive vibes, and we put that stuff out there. And then probably my additional shout out would be to my wife. Thank you for everything, putting up with me, the situations, our ups, our downs, our lefts, our right. And as we still continue to grow, we're a year away from our daughter leaving. We're going to continue to figure this thing out, and we're going to spend a lot more quality time together, me, you, and the dog.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So is that Doberman yours?
It is. That is mine.
Oh, that's
Yep,
yours.
It is.
Man,
yeah.
How cool is that?
Yeah, hopefully, I don't know. Maybe if I convince the wife, maybe here in a couple months, there might be a second Doberman. So it'll be pretty interesting.
All right. Well, Jason, thank you so much.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Bruce.
Appreciate you letting us use Black Rifle Coffee here. Thank you for the time shared.
Absolutely,
Appreciate you,
man.
brother.
Thanks for stopping through.
We'll see you next time.